Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center at 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. Further details and showtimes can be found online at gatewayfilmcenter.com.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Johnny DiLoretto. This is Cinema Classics, and I have often wondered, John, when I look at you now, I met you 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago?
Yeah, at least,
about 15
years
ago. I always thought that maybe in your heyday, you might have looked an awful lot like Bob Redford. And I call him Bob, not because I know him, but I don't know, you want to call the guy Bob Redford.
I think probably his friends do.
Yeah.
And I did have something of a resemblance to him when he was young. I just looked at him in that Twilight Zone segment that I love.
Yeah.
Nothing in the Dark.
Yeah.
And boy, he could have been my brother.
Is that right?
Yeah, he could. And that's what my mother said.
And you say that with such humility.
I do, because my mother said I should go to Hollywood.
Uh-huh.
However, when I went to Georgetown and was in an acting group with people who really knew how to act,
Yeah.
I knew that there was no way
Right.
I was going to do
Did
that.
you?
Oh,
Did you
yeah.
know that?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Well, know thyself.
All right.
That is pretty great.
So he's in Walk in the Woods.
He is in Walk in the Woods. He's been working, recently. He appeared as the villain in Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. And another villain, I've forgotten what the title of it is, but yeah, you're so right.
And he was recently in this movie, which was a taut little adventure thriller called All Is Lost.
Oh.
Where he was, out on a boat in the middle of the ocean by himself. Things start to go horribly wrong. And then it's all just focused on, it's sort of a procedural, a nautical procedural.
Sure.
What you do, what this character does in the face of all this adversity. His ship is sinking, and he doesn't have any lines. He does all this great acting just with his face and his physicality. And at his age, it's a brilliant performance.
He probably has the strongest nomination, or the stronger of the two nominations he's had for Best Actor for that film.
For that film, yeah.
I think the other might have been The Sting.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But what's interesting about Robert Redford, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, is as a movie star, he was so good looking. I mean, gorgeous. He is just, the all-American beautiful male.
Yeah.
And yet, that can often, when you think back on all the great movie stars who are that good looking often lose favor with the public. They often don't really have the acting chops to sustain a career over as long a period of time as he has. There is something about Robert Redford underneath the good looks that's happening that keeps us interested, keeps us rooting for him, and just lends a depth to his persona. What is it?
All right. Yeah, and I like the topic. You reminded me immediately of Rob Lowe. Mm-hmm. These guys who are so good looking that it becomes an impediment for them.
Right.
And I think you're right. There's some karma there that gets them in trouble.
And with a guy like Rob Lowe, his looks are too glassy. They're too, there's something not under the surface there. The way that there's a depth of character that Robert Redford exudes.
There are plenty of good actors like George Clooney who are great looking. Mm-hmm. But when you just defined Redford very well, it was that all-American, blazingly good look. And I think most of his career, he's been trying to underplay that. He has been attempting roles for subjects that he believed in.
Yeah.
You think about the quiz show, the Milagro Bean. These are issues. These are issues. So that's where I think he has survived by not giving into the barefoot in the park look.
Well, yeah, he's always in a understated way, and you said underplayed, which I want to hang on that for a moment. He has never taken on a role where he screams and yells, where he's overtly emotional. He has this sort of low-key, slow burn approach to acting that I think draws us in. I'm thinking of, one, how amazingly charming is he in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Paul Newman gave him the shot at starring alongside of him when Robert Redford was not yet a big star.
Yeah.
And they had such a dynamic, probably the single greatest example of screen chemistry ever captured
I
on
think
film.
directors use that as an example of the buddy film.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's such a playful sort of rapport between them, and yet a depth of friendship. I don't want to go on and on about Butch Cassidy and Sundance, but what's great is after that, he never takes these sort of any bombastic roles. Even when he's in a movie like, remember 3 Days of the Condor? Action film.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of very Hitchcockian. He's this normal guy sucked into this espionage scenario, and everything is just, I don't know, he's always bringing it, you lean forward to meet Robert Redford somehow on the screen.
Perhaps the best fusion of a couple of the characters you've been talking about is in The Way We Were, where he has the good looks, but he also has the charm, and working with Streisand, I think that they did a terrific job. Then you take his own personal skills and he plays in The Natural, because you remember, he had a scholarship for baseball at the University of Colorado, but they booted him out for over drinking.
Is that right?
Yeah, so he's a bad boy.
That's great.
But he has that talent.
I know there's a lot of people who are down on The Natural, and yes, I believe it's a beautiful film. Maybe it's not Malamud's book, but it's a great baseball yarn, and Redford couldn't embody that American hero any better. It's beautiful to watch him on the baseball field, you know, with the sparks coming down off of the lights in the stadium. It's gorgeous.
You know, I could have used the same words for a film that I'm probably the only person in the United States of America who liked his role in this.
Yeah.
The Great Gatsby.
Oh, yeah, no, I like that.
But they just felt it was wrong, and I thought it worked.
Yeah, the movie itself has problems. It's a little stiff.
Yeah.
But Redford is a perfect choice to play that role. One of my favorite Redford movies, The Candidate.
Oh gosh.
So perfect.
Yeah.
Probably, maybe one of the greatest political movies ever made.
And All the President's Men.
Another one.
Again about
back
politics.
to back. That is another great one. That's another great example of screen chemistry as well. You know what, he doesn't bring, despite those looks, to the screen any hubris. That's what I think works so well when he's on screen with other actors, especially really talented ones like Paul Newman or Dustin Hoffman. You don't see him trying to upstage his co-stars. He lets them do whatever it is they're doing, and he just plays off of it so nicely. He's a real joy to watch.
You know, that's a great point that I hadn't thought about. I think about it when I talk about somebody like Jerry Seinfeld, who I think draws out his other characters as he did in his show.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the thing that happens with Redford. You're right. He never dominates that screen except by his looks. But he's always looking about where he can pull in rather than give out. And I think that's exactly.
And that got me thinking, I wonder, I would love to go back and see some of these performances now, especially when he's co-starring against somebody who's really powerful. But I would like to re-examine something like All the President's Men and see if he isn't upstaging his co-star by doing so little.
I know, I think flat out you're right. There's nothing, one of the problems that he has, I believe, is that he never can raise his emotional level to the kind that, who would we call one of our great actors?
Like
Daniel
Nicholson or Day-Lewis.
Right. These guys can go out there.
Right.
They don't do it all the time, but I've never seen Redford go out there at all.
No, he's not. He's never been emotionally naked. But, that's interesting. That is, a star should know their limitations. He is a movie star. He's a movie star with some really fabulous acting chops. However, he knows his limitations. He knows he's not suddenly going to be able to play Baron von Whippersnapper. You know what I mean? He's not going to do some period piece. He's not going to bury himself under makeup to play Nixon or anybody.
He's not.
He knows the range in which he excels, and he stays in that range. And it's 40 years the guy's been a movie star. He's unparalleled.
All right, two other things. We cannot forget that may be greater than what we've just talked about. his Oscar as a director
Mm-hmm.
for Ordinary People.
Right. He
And
should not have won that Oscar.
because he was going against, I'll bet, a Scorsese film.
That is right.
I knew it.
The year was 1980. I'm going to tell the story. The year was 1980. Scorsese had just capped off the greatest decade of American filmmaking with Raging Bull. At the Oscars, Raging Bull, because it was kind of a portrait of a really disgusting, repulsive human being, and it was violent and ugly in some ways, lost out to this really handsomely directed picture starring Mary Tyler Moore and Donald Sutherland about a broken suburban family called Ordinary People. And though Ordinary People is just fine and features some really great performances, it's no Raging Bull. He should not have won. I will say this though, Quiz Show, which he directed some 10 years later, is a beautiful film. Is a great movie.
What about A River Runs Through It? I mean, I know that's I know it's very it's very romantic.
It is very romantic, and you know, I have no aversion to romance or sentiment even, but there's something I don't know. I think Brad Pitt might have been a little too young for the role. Like he was being heralded as the next Redford.
Redford, right?
You know, but he was too much.
Yeah.
He was too much, and not, you know, Brad Pitt is so comfortable in his own skin now. I don't see that then. I wish maybe he had cast someone else in that part, but also I just feel the movie's a little stiff as well.
All right, we'll close out with my question to you.
Mm-hmm.
Greater than Robert Redford as actor and director is his contribution to film.
The Sundance Film Festival, yeah.
I mean, that institute had profoundly affected independent film in America, the Sundance Institute. That's his. That's his baby. To me, as it thrives, gets even better, as it has a brand that you immediately go to when you say it's a candidate, it won at Sundance. It's like Cannes.
Yeah.
You can't ignore it.
He really did. He, in some ways, you're right. He brought independent filmmaking to the mainstream. I know that is, you know, probably anathema to him because that's not what his intentions were.
Right.
But, however, how many great films might we have never seen hadn't the Sundance Film Festival brought them and got distribution for them?
Well, that's quite a legacy, isn't it?
It is quite a legacy, you know. I'm sure that Paul Newman is up there somewhere, smiling and laughing, and really proud of the guy.